What's up, Bills Mafia? I'm Fernando Schmude, that's your leading the charge. Today I'm going to talk about this Groundhog Day it seems the Bills is stuck in, right? And how they might be able to break this cycle and finally get back into a Super Bowl. I will talk a little bit about this Bills and Jets game as well, and also close out the Bills Texans game from last week. But mostly, I want to talk about this Groundhog Day dynamic the Bills seems to be stuck in, um, especially the last few seasons under Coach McDermott and most of the main players we have right now. So, uh, welcome to the show and thanks for joining me today. I count on your support, so please hit that like button, subscribe to Buffalo Rumblings and Rumblings Network channel as well. Support our shows. We have great shows there with Sterling Furwo, Bruce Exclusive, Jay Spence the King, Sarah Larson, Joe Boccacino, Jamie D, Big Newt, all great shows you can follow and give it a listen. And I'm sure you'll find great shows that you will be very appeased about them. So, as well, by leading the charge, always live here, always every Friday in English and Portuguese every Sunday. And so today I want to talk about this dynamic. Why are the Bills stuck in this situation? What can they do to finally break this drought, a different drought, right? Because we are used to the playoff drought, and now it seems more like a Super Bowl drought because we've been able to build some teams, and especially with Josh Allen leading the way, we've been able to get them near the back to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen has played in an extremely high level, especially in the playoffs. The exception was that Bengals game 2 years ago, but um, we all remember this last stretch, great playoff run with the team last season, and unfortunately, the defense couldn't really play well against the Chiefs and do enough. Tyler Bass missing a field goal, also some drops. So I felt like, yes, Josh played well enough to beat Mahomes, to beat the Chiefs, to get through them, and to go to a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, he didn't have enough help coming from the coaching staff, coming from the players, from the teammates, from the coaches around him, both sides of the ball, and it was very frustrating. Before that, against the Bengals, it wasn't the case. Josh also had a poor game, and they didn't really play well. But even before that, when we had maybe what most of people see as our best opportunity in this 8-year McDermott era, when we got into the playoffs, when we had a perfect game against the Patriots, um, Patriots with the number one defense, by the way, right? And Josh and the offense, the guys had the perfect game. The defense played well, made plays, and we had a great playoff win against the Patriots, kinda to exercise that team that frustrated us for so many years during the playoff drought. And then the game against the Chiefs. And again, if you look at the game, if you watch the game, and if you look at the numbers as well, and if you ignore the team performances and focus on quarterback performances, there is no way you can tell me Mahomes outplayed Josh in that game or that Mahomes did more than Josh to win that game. It's not true. All right. The numbers are very similar. And if you take away the numbers from the overtime when Mahomes had the chance to put up those numbers, but Josh didn't have that chance, right? Josh had the best game. Both played an extremely high level, all right, but Josh had the better game with more production, more yards, more touchdowns. Unfortunately, right? I'll remember the 13 seconds episode. Um, the attitude or the lack of attitude by our coaches and our defense in that last drive when the Chiefs could kick that field goal. And again, a long field goal. It was a few yards short than 50-yard mark, and Butker nailed it right in the middle without any doubts, right? But when we needed Tyler Bass last season to hit a closer field goal. It was impossible for him. So all the way around, we've always seen Andy Reid being better than Coach McDermott in the playoffs. Spags being better than our offensive coordinator in the playoffs, or kind of a decent battle. I can't really be unfair to our offensive coordinators. I think Brady did well last year against the Chiefs. We were able to run the ball in the first half. Maybe we took a little bit too long to adjust in the second half, costing some points on the board and some drives. But the offense could play well enough to win that game. Some unfortunate drops by Diggs, by Sherfield, but the offense was able to score. Josh played well, right? And in the 13-second game, Dable as well had a good game plan. The offense could score, could play well against the Chiefs defense, a tough defense that will have some moments in the game that will be able to get out of the field sometimes, will create some turnovers with Spags calling great defense and some playmakers on that side of the ball playing for them as well. But the other battle, the battle of our defense against their offense, it's always been tough. It's always been a one-sided battle. It's always been Mahomes and the Chiefs offense carving up our defense, our top-ranked defense in the 13 seconds episode. It was the number one ranked defense in the NFL that year, right? And they didn't look nowhere near a number one defense in that playoff game, right? And it was Frazier defense, but it was also McDermott's defense. Sean McDermott, we know his background. We know how he's a defensive coach, how he was a defensive coordinator. And he brought Leslie Frazier in to have some experience alongside him, to have a guy that was a head coach before him to be his right-hand man. But it's not like he gave the defense all on Leslie Frazier's hands and do whatever you want. No, it's always been Sean McDermott style defense, playing more zone than man, playing more nickel than anything else. It's very similar to the defenses that he run back in the day with the Carolina Panthers. So that McDermott defense has been bare minimum not good enough during playoff runs, right? It was like this in the 13 seconds game. It was like this last season again. Unfortunately, last season without Terrell Bernard injured, Matt Milano injured, but still, you got to expect a defensive mastermind to be able to create something, to minimize those. Some things, a lot of losses are right. Losing Bernard, losing Milano, losing a lot of guys, it's tough. But I'd expect a defensive mastermind, a defensive specialist to be able to have options at least, because we were out there last playoff game against the Chiefs running AJ Klein all game long when he was a mismatch being explored all game long, right? So it was tough to watch, right? And it always brings us to the question, will we be able to get back to a Super Bowl with Coach McDermott as the head coach? And that's a tough question, right? Because it's kind of funny, because depending who you are or when you have listened to me, some people will have me as a McDermott homer or a McDermott guy, always praising the way he carries himself, his team building, the way he works and how he could set the tone and build a nice atmosphere inside the locker room, right? How he values high character guys and how he tries to be a high character coach as well, right? And it's not easy because he's in a position to make some decisions that will hurt some people's feelings. So when we see or hear some stuff about things coming from other coaches, other players, like we saw or we read when Ty Dunn did that article last year, we'll see guys that got fired. We'll see guys that got cut. We'll see guys that maybe expected to play more and they didn't play as much as they expected under McDermott. You will see and we will hear from guys that maybe were treated unfairly by McDermott, not because McDermott is a bad guy, but because he's human, right? And he's in a position that it's not easy to always be 100% fair to everybody, right? And you hurt some feelings. You have some bad blood going with some people when you are the leader of a team like McDermott is. It has been since he being hired by Terry Pegula. And it's not easy to appease everybody, to have everybody happy. All right. It's a big locker room, 53 men, plus practice squad, a lot of coaches. So it's not easy to be a respected leader and always be fair to everybody. And McDermott tries to be, but obviously he's flawed. He's a flawed man, just like me and you and everybody that can even take over the job. Or he's a flawed guy. He tries his best, but he's a flawed guy. He won't be perfect, right? And I can understand that, and I can value a lot all the positives McDermott brings to the table, all the positives that he brings to the table, and that helped the Bills to come a long way since the days we were fighting to make the playoffs, and now we are sitting here like four-time AFC East champions, every year making the playoffs, right? And that's what makes me confident to write what I wrote for Buffalo Rumblings before the season, to tell you guys that have followed my work here. Look, the Bills will be a 12-5 team this year. That was my preview for the Bills this season, right? But okay, I can see 11 wins. I can see best case scenario 13 wins, right? But not a team winning less than 10 games. My minimum is 11 for this team. And why do I trust so much this team to be able to do that? Part of that is because Sean McDermott. It's obviously first because of Josh Allen. When you have Josh Allen, you can expect to win a lot of games, right? That's the advantage of having a superstar quarterback. And in my opinion, I stand by that, the best quarterback in the league, right? But Sean McDermott plays a big role on that because he's a solid leader. He's a guy that has his team prepared. He has the control of the locker room. He has the guys working together for a common goal, right? Trying to do their best, trying to pay close attention to detail. He has solid schemes defensively. He has some good schemes defensively. I like his defense, especially for regular season, right? He will be able to take advantage of bad teams, bad offenses. He will dominate against them, right? We will see one game per season where they can't stop the run to save their lives. That's something that comes with his mindset on defense. That having a defense ready to stop the pass, to take up and make the most of opportunities against the pass. But can be sometimes successful to the running game. If you can run the ball well against this defense, sometimes they will lose the control of that running game because they aren't a defense built to shut out opposing run games. They are defense built to force third down situations and get out of the field on third down, right? So this kind of approach includes playing nickel defense on first down, for example, inviting people to try to run the ball against you. Because if they can stop you in a 3-yard run, okay, it might be good enough, right? To force a third down and try to get out of the field on third down. So I like a lot of the positives McDermott has brought onto the table for the Bills, right? And I can tell you, oh, McDermott sucks and he gotta be fired because he's the worst, and or he's lucky and totally carried by Josh. And no, it's not about it, right? The guy is a good coach. The guy is a guy that remember this also when I criticize McDermott, because I really feel like a lot of the Bills' control is on his hands, right? When Terry Pegula hired him 8 years ago, right? Pegula made him the centerpiece, the commander of this team, because he hired McDermott before hiring the general manager. He had still Doug Whaley working with McDermott to start McDermott's tenure and to work through that first draft when Doug Whaley and his scouts have done all the scouting along the season, and McDermott worked alongside them during that first draft that had we trading away the pick and then drafting Tre'Davious White and later drafting Matt Milano, and it was a solid draft, right? But right after that draft, Pegula fired Whaley, cleaned the house, and he asked McDermott, who would you like to have as your general manager? Hey, let's bring my buddy from Carolina. Let's bring Brandon Beane to the building. And they did that, right? And Brandon Beane obviously built his staff, built his scouting staff. So McDermott was, since the beginning, he was in charge of all those moves, all those hirings, and he hired all his favorite coaches to be his defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, positional coaches. And since that day, or 8 years ago, those days, 8 years ago, right? McDermott has already fired offensive coordinators, not once, but even 3 times already, right? Dable wasn't fired, but by the way the relationship is right now, we could feel like if he could fire Dable when Dable got hired by the Giants, he would, right? So he got rid of 3 offensive coordinators already. He's on his 4th offensive coordinator with Brady now. And finally, he has a coordinator that does something that he wanted since his days with Dable. He wanted more running game. He wanted more balance because he felt Dable was too one-dimensional towards the pass. Something I'm not. I know a lot of people was bothered by. Oh, the Bills don't play much under center. They play too much shotgun. That's why they can't run the ball. Sorry, I don't buy into that. Right? I think with the way they were able to pass the ball under Dable and spreading the defenses around, having Diggs, having Cole Beasley inside, having some top options for Josh Allen to take advantage of, right? If your offensive line was a bit tougher, your run game would work against those light boxes. But unfortunately, that offensive line back in the day wasn't good imposing themselves, running the football. They had some trouble with some bad players. Spencer Brown wasn't as good as he is right now, even though I don't think he's that good right now. He's solid, getting better, heading the right direction, but not awesome yet. But back in the day, he was bad. Let's be honest. As a rookie, he was a freak athletically, but he wasn't a good right tackle, right? Bates was better in pass blocking, and he wasn't the most physical guard to impose the run game. Before that, we had Feliciano as a liability there, right? Mitch Morse never was. He was athletic enough and mobile enough to be a puller, especially on some Josh Allen runs, but he never was the most physical, imposing center, right? Dion Dawkins has played better recently than in the past, and never was the run blocker he's been recently, and especially after Cromer took over, right? Cromer took over. He needed to change a lot of stuff in the technique, in the way he runs his offensive linemen. But we are now seeing the dividends, right, of having Cromer as the offensive line coach, and the offensive line has been better, has been more physical, has been able to impose themselves and run the football. I believe that approach would work perfectly with Dable's offense nowadays when you spread people around and you have a light box to run against. It's not like they can't run nowadays. They can run, but we see a lot of heavy formations. Alec Anderson on the field a lot. The Bills running 19 out of 24 first downs against the Texans. It's way too much, man. It's way too much. And you just turned a powerful offense capable of passing the ball all over everybody's head. You turned it into a run-first offense. It starts with the run. You want to impose your run game. You want to try to make defenses load the boxes, and then want to take advantage of that. And guess what? The defenses are loading the boxes now against the Bills, and they are playing man, and they are choosing to be exposed on the boundary. But the Bills can take advantage of that because they don't have enough weapons. So I don't like the direction the offense has gone, and it has happened because of McDermott has chose to go that direction since the beginning, when he was butting heads with Dable, when he decided that we couldn't run Josh anymore because we had to protect him. And then Dable Sorry, and then Dorsey, 1 year after he had a solid season as offensive coordinator, got him some head coach interviews, opportunities, and then out of nothing, Dorsey wasn't using Josh in the running game anymore, right? And just when he was almost fired, he could start to run the ball with Josh again, but it wasn't enough. They lost to the Broncos. Dorsey got fired, and as soon as Brady took over, the Bills built that tough run game with Josh running the ball as well. So, are those decisions on McDermott? Kinda they are, because he's been all the time demanding from his offensive coordinators, let's run the ball, let's impose the running game, let's be a more balanced team. And I can get the balance. I just feel like the Bills were too one dimension to passing the ball, and against the Texans last week, they looked totally one dimension running the ball because they couldn't pass the ball to save their lives, right? And some people were quick to blame Josh, and Josh wasn't in his best day. But how could he be in his best day in that situation when you are basically running the ball on first down every time, right? Sometimes running it in the second down as well. And when the run game didn't work and it's 3rd and 8, you are asking your quarterback, go, be Superman, do your magic, save us. Save us and get us a first down so we can run the ball again until it doesn't work, and you need to save us again. So I don't think the best use of Josh Allen is making him your plan B to save the offense when it's not working. I don't think it's good use of a franchise quarterback, the best quarterback in the league, right? And that's what the Bills have done with Josh Allen. And we've seen in the first few weeks that the offense is playing well, and Josh didn't even need to do too much. He did a lot against the Cardinals because we were in a hole already after the first half. People forget that. But the second and third game, we took the lead, and it was easy. The screen game worked. The run game worked. Josh made one splash play here and there when needed, but mostly it was the offense working properly in a situation where Josh was simply the guy scaring opposing defenses. We got to be scared because they have Josh Allen, and if we load the box, they will punish us, right? But as soon as defenses realize, look, we can play man-to-man, cover one, we can load the box, they don't have people to beat us on the boundaries, to beat us deep, right? This offense stopped to work. It works to an extent, but when they could stop or limit their run game, when they put us in bad situations, we don't have that passing offense that could strike some fear onto other defenses, and that was a powerful passing offense. We lack that nowadays. We don't have it anymore, right? And what happens is when their Bills are in a hole like they've been the last 2 weeks, it seems they don't have enough. They don't have the firepower to come back. But they almost came back against the Houston Texans. And they are a great team because their record shows that. Don't be fooled by that. I think the Texans started to kill themselves, just the Bills used to do in the past, in the second half, with a lot of offensive penalties. A lot of offensive penalties put them in bad situations where our defense could take advantage of, right? But other than that, the game wasn't that close. The Texans made it closer. Some big-time plays by Terrell Bernard, some big-time plays by our defense made it closer, but still they couldn't close it out when they had an opportunity to stop them in the last drive and take the ball back. The Texans got into field goal range, and again, another personal foul took them out of field goal range, and they had to punt the ball. So 3 pass plays later, the Bills gave the ball back to them with 3 timeouts, and they could move for a first down or just a few yards and then kick and win the game. So I really, really feel like McDermott has a big part in that, right? On those decisions. It's not like he tells Brady, do whatever you want. He tells Babbage, do whatever you want. No, he's out there as the head coach. we know he has a lot of impact on the defensive side of the ball, but he also has a lot of impact on the offensive side of the ball with what he demands from his offensive coordinators, what he has demanded from his offensive coordinators since day one, since he got hired and had Dennison as his first offensive coordinator, a boring guy who wanted to play under center and play action stuff, coming from Kubiak tree, right? And that Texans offenses of the past led by Matt Schaub and Andrew Johnson. So obviously the Bills didn't have the talent to be as good at that Texans offense, but they made it to the playoffs. They had Shady McCoy still playing well in that first McDermott year. They had Tyrod Taylor taking care of the football, running the ball as well, right? And they played defense and were able to break the drought, make the playoffs. But the following year, they got rid of Dennison, hired Dable, drafted Josh, and the offense went in a different direction. And I feel like we had a great offense, a flawed one for sure, right? But a flawed one in the sense that you just got to get the run game a little bit better, run the ball a little bit better against light boxes, take advantage of the light boxes. The Bills weren't able to take advantage of light boxes back in that 13-second season, but our offense was so powerful passing the ball that still we put up a lot of points and we did enough to beat the Chiefs, right? Unfortunately, the defense gave the game away. The coaches gave that game away. But the offense, it wasn't the problem, right? As it was, and I know a lot of people hate Dorsey nowadays, looking in hindsight, but the offense wasn't the problem under Dorsey as well. Not until McDermott didn't allow them to run Josh anymore because they needed to protect the franchise quarterback. And Dorsey spent 5 weeks of the season with a pass-happy offense and without any place to Josh run the ball. So our run game was extremely limited, right? And he was scapegoated, and then Brady got the job, and the Bills were able to run the ball a lot, but the passing game started to get worse and worse. And now it seems they spent an entire offseason working on that run game and condensed formations and drafted a Keon Coleman guy that is a great player. He will be a great player. I believe he will, right? And he has some nice tools to be worked with, but they are playing him exclusively on the boundary, exclusively as the X, when that's a guy, even from pre-draft, a lot of people preferred him as a big slot. So you got to give him some other opportunities there as well. Move him around. The Bills decided to make those choices, to sign Samuel, that seems a better fit for the slot. They already had their best receiver on the roster, Shakir, a better fit for the slot. And now they drafted Coleman for the slot as well. So those are the choices the Bills have made. And we can put it on Brandon Beane first because he's the general manager. But I don't see Beane doing stuff without the consentment of Sean McDermott, since Sean McDermott was the first guy hired and has been in command. So when I tell you that I really appreciate a lot of stuff that McDermott has done positively and that has brought the Bills until this point of making the playoffs, but always losing to the best teams in the playoffs when they had chances. It's not like they aren't in the same league. They have big-time chances against those teams, especially the Chiefs, right? I feel like he's very good to bring us here, but he's very bad to get us through those Chiefs teams or those better teams and have us winning a Super Bowl. That should be the ultimate goal, right? Am I right? I believe so. We got to focus on winning a Super Bowl. We can't focus on being extremely competitive for the entire Josh Allen prime. For 15 years, the Bills were extremely competitive. They were in the playoffs for 15 consecutive years. They made the AFC Championship game 2 or 3 times, and they never got back to a Super Bowl or never won a Super Bowl. Will it be a success? Bills Mafia, support us here at Rumblings Network. Hit that like button. Subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel as well, please. I need your support to get to 1K followers, right? 1,000 followers is the goal. We are moving through that direction. I need your help, so please like, subscribe, and also this episode will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts right after I finish it live here, right? We have some people already in the comment sections. Rafa is here sending his Go Bills. And so I will ask you again, Bills Mafia, is being competitive for 15 years but not getting over the hump a successful 15-year stretch for the Bills, 10-year stretch? Because now we are through 8 years of Sean McDermott, and obviously there are a lot of positives, and a lot of things that no matter how good the next Bills head coach can be, there will be things that McDermott was better than this guy, because that's the it's difficult to hire. McDermott isn't better than our previous coaches in every aspect of the game, right? He's better at most of them, but he's not better at every aspect. I'm pretty sure we can go to even Doug Marrone and point out something better from him. Shangeli, right? We can point. I trust Shangeli 100% more taking care of an offense or the way he saw the offensive philosophy than Sean McDermott, for example, right? Unfortunately, Shangeli couldn't hire a good defensive coordinator to save his life, right? But we can go back in the head coaches, and all of them will have their strengths, their flaws, right? And the next Bills coach, when the Bills finally decide to move on, he will have his flaws as well, right? And I know a lot of people are afraid. Fernando, who are we gonna hire for McDermott? Who that can be better than him, right? But this kind of question can't stop the Bills on trying to get over the hump and finally leave this Groundhog Day and move on. Because unfortunately, the last few games, and you know about that, if you have been following me here on the Leading the Chart, if you have been reading to my articles, you know I'm more a half full glass type of guy than a half empty glass type of guy. But the last loss, especially, not even the loss to the Ravens, right? But the last loss against the Texans, it was a close one. And if we focus just on this loss, okay, it wasn't that bad. We were right there, right? Some better management, some better decisions, and we might win that game. We might go to overtime. And so it's not the end of the world. The players on interviews this week are about, let's fix some details, let's work on the basics, and let's get back on the drawing board and let's correct it and win the next game. And yeah, if you focus just on this game, yeah, I agree. But this game showed something that we've seen these last 8 years, right? We've seen the playoffs. We've seen in the 13 seconds. We've seen last playoffs again, right? Some flaws that are tough to overcome, and the feeling that McDermott won't ever get it done. He's been getting better. I feel like since that Ty Dunn article, we've seen a more aggressive McDermott, especially on defense. When you have the defense out there to close games out, you're not playing that prevent defense and giving away, putting a red carpet and telling people, oh, I'm so afraid of giving away a touchdown that you can take the field goal and tie the game. Let's go to overtime, like he's done several times against the Chiefs, against the Eagles. Man, I can remember so many times, right? No, they are playing more aggressively. They are trying to win the game actually, and not lose those games. So I can see McDermott getting better in several aspects, but it's still slow development, and his vision for the offense, I'm afraid it's not good enough. I'm afraid it's bad for the Bills, because instead of focusing on your best player, a superstar, the best quarterback in the league, and that's Josh Allen, okay? Instead of focusing on, you know what? I have this guy. I'm going to build this offense around him. And all opposing defenses will be afraid of Josh Allen and his weapons. because we have Josh Allen and we have Stephon Diggs on one side of the ball, and we have DeAndre Hopkins on the other side of the ball, and Gabe Davis is your number 3, right? And we just drafted Kincaid to be a tight end, and Shakir is coming along. This passing offense, you can't man up all those guys and stop them. So we're going to play soft defense and put those 2 safeties deep and allow us to be physical with the offensive line that has gotten better and run the ball all over you. So how do you stop that? You can't. You got to limit that. So this offense will score a lot of points, and on the other side of the ball, we'll play good enough to win. You don't need to shut down opposing offenses. You got to leave the field when it's needed, right? Just like Spags does with his defenses. We don't see top-ranked chief defenses during regular season, but we see them drafting and playing those draft picks early, giving them opportunities to learn from their mistakes, right? Like Bishop. Bishop made a big-time mistake against the Texans. He'll learn from that. Now, if you don't play him all season long and need him in the playoffs, just like the Bills needed Dorian Williams last season in the playoffs, but he didn't play all season long. You chose to play Dodson ahead of him, who's a nice, solid linebacker, by the way, but wasn't the future. We are watching Dorian Williams flourish in front of our eyes, leading the league in tackles, a hit-seek missile, a nice complementary piece alongside Bernard, a guy that will make us think about, man, how about Milano when he comes back? Because Dorian is getting better, right? But unfortunately, he didn't play enough during regular season last season, and we needed him by playoff times. But no, we had to call AJ Klein from vacation, right? Instead of playing a rookie because he wasn't ready. So we see the Chiefs putting their rookies early, letting him learn. And when it's playoffs time, their defense wasn't number 1 ranked during regular season, but it was good enough in the playoffs to get out of the field on third downs, to make even Josh Allen, who scored a lot of points over them, it was difficult for him to do so because every time, new looks, every drive, blitzes, no blitzes, play soft, play press, and force some mistakes, right? They didn't need to stop Josh during those playoffs, 13 seconds game last year. They didn't need to stop him totally to be able to beat the Bills because they knew they could exploit other areas of the team, right? And the Bills, they want to be the top, the Ravens 2000 defense in the playoffs. They won't be that. Sorry, not gonna happen, right? And on the other side, instead of trusting Josh, who's proven to be able to deliver in the playoffs and lead a powerful passing attack that opens up everything else. No, let's be run first. Let's start with the run game. Let's start with it and then open play action. Let's take the pressure out of Josh. Man, when it works, cool. Against bad teams, against average teams, but against the best defenses and the best teams, you need your offense led by Josh scoring a lot. And we simply don't have it anymore, right? So that's what I'm afraid now because we don't have enough weapons. Josh in clear passing down, since teams are able to play aggressive and have a lot of people on stacked boxes, they are able to blitz him more. They are able to hide those blitzes or those pressures, simulated pressures, where they are coming from. And the protection hasn't been good because this offensive line, they don't know where the pressure is coming from. Even Josh isn't recognizing where those pressures are coming from, right? We sometimes or play a heavy formation or we play empty backfield, right? Like there is not in between. It's just like heavy formation, run or play action. Oh, passing down, empty backfield, and we're going to pass. Like adjustments got to be made, right? And I believe Brady can do that. And I believe McDermott got to be able to see it and see that they need some adjustments and demand them from Brady. But I'm really afraid that we are stuck with the same stuff every year. Like a good Bills team that starts the year well, blow out some opponents, then they are figured out with some flaws, go through a tough stretch, They figured out their own problems, go through a good stretch, winning streak against some not so good opponents, and the Bills will have an easier schedule as the season goes on. Goes on a run, wins the division because the division now sucks again, right? The Jets are trying, but they are a mess. Maybe it works. Who knows? They were a mess before, so they are at least trying, being aggressive. We'll see what's the result, right? But they know they don't have much time left with Aaron Rodgers, right? And with Josh, we have more time than the Jets have. But is it enough? Because it's been 7 years of Josh's career already, and I don't know how long he'll be able to play as he's playing right now. He's been taking a beat recently. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous to count on Josh playing like this for so longer, right? So Miami has a problem at quarterback position and likely out of contention. New England will try a boost now with Drake May, but we know they aren't that great. So the Bills are totally capable of winning the division again, getting into the playoffs, and then probably losing to a good team that will take advantage of running defense, or that will take advantage of our lack of weapons in the passing game. And then what will be the excuse? Oh, this year we had a lot of dead cap. It was a transitional year. Everybody expected us to do poorly because they were telling before the year we wouldn't make the playoffs, we wouldn't win the division, but we won it. And I always trusted they would be able to win it, and I wrote it in my preview, 12-5, winning the division. And I trust it because I believe McDermott has a lot of good traits to build teams like he just built this one as well, and to lead them to divisional titles with Allen as his quarterback and playoffs. But like in a Groundhog Day, I believe they're going to lose again to a good team in the playoffs. And right now, I don't know which team is that because the Chiefs aren't playing that well. The Texans, everybody want to hype this team. They aren't that good. They aren't playing that well. They shoot themselves on their foot all the time, right? So the NFC, people who follows my work, they know I'm not really high on the NFC teams, and I'm not afraid of any AFC team against the Bills. So right now, I don't know which team is that, but I know for sure at some point one team, and the Chiefs are very likely to do so, the Ravens maybe, we never know, but they will get into the playoffs ready to compete because they are well-coached teams and they are well-built teams, and they have also star power. And the Bills, they will be well-coached, but well-coached enough to be better than those best teams. I don't feel like it's going to happen because McDermott really doesn't give me enough to feel confident about him taking that next step, And if you are afraid of Fernando, we got to hire who's going to be better. You got to try. That's why we have a process, an interview process. When we hired McDermott, we weren't sure about the coach we were having. One thing I know for sure is it wasn't a team that everybody wanted to coach back in the day. When McDermott got hired, it wasn't the most the job opening that everybody wanted, right? Nowadays it's different. There is a reason we hear from the national media all the time. Oh, McDermott he's in a hot seat, right? His seat might be hot because they lost. And there is a reason ESPN and all those media outlets always put him on a hot seat when he actually isn't. We that follow the Bills closely, we know McDermott isn't really on a hot seat. We know that Pegula loves the guy. We know that Bills' stability is the total opposite from the Sabres' mess. So I don't believe in McDermott being fired during the season. I don't believe McDermott will be fired at the end of the season. He won't be fired after a playoff loss next year. I think we are at least 1 year away of a McDermott being on a hot seat. But there is a reason why the media always tries to vent this kind of stuff, because agents, right? The agents, the head coaches, looking for jobs, the coordinators. That's the dream job right now. A job we take over with Josh Allen in his prime, a team that has been dominating the division. That's a dream job. You take over, you make some adjustments, you make your adjustments, bring your kind of people, your coordinators, your kind of players for some positions, and you're right there with an option or an opportunity to compete right away. So it's a dream job. It's not like when McDermott got the job. So if you are afraid, oh, I'm afraid because McDermott is going to be fired, who's going to be better? Go through a nice process, a nice interview process. Find a good offensive-minded coach. I love, for example, Gene Schwartz. I would be all about giving him a new opportunity as a head coach because I loved him as our defensive coordinator. I love him as a defensive coordinator. I simply don't want a new defensive coach because I don't want to be afraid every time our offense is playing well with Josh on fire. I don't want to be afraid of losing my offensive coordinator next year and needing to adjust everything all over again. So find a top offensive-minded coach through a nice interview process. Marry him with a good defensive coordinator. It's easier to do than the opposite, right? And it's also easier to replace later if your defensive coordinator gets a job elsewhere. For example, imagine if today we have a head coach and McDermott is our defensive coordinator. I like his defense, right? If McDermott is hired for other people, we simply elevate Babbage, was under McDermott all along, and he continues to run the same defense, right? It's not so simple with the offensive side of the ball, doing the play calling, and so I'd rather go offensive-minded coach. Ben Johnson is the name of the moment, right? But there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees Ben Johnson will be a great head coach, right? There are no guarantees that the next coach will be better than McDermott. But also, you can't stop trying because you are afraid afraid of not being successful enough. Because right now, you're not being successful enough. It's been 8 years, 7 with Josh, 5 with Josh as a superstar quarterback. And the same mistakes are made over and over and over again. And honestly, it might be different for you that have read my articles for Buffalo Rumblings, and maybe you called me a homer there, right? Or people who believes I'm always very positive-minded, always expecting the best. And honestly, it's not really true. I just read the room and make my reads, and I can see this team playing well and winning the division, going back to the playoffs with McDermott this season again, and without Hyde and Poyer and Trey and Diggs, because they are good enough playing disciplined football, right mindset, every player not wanting to be bigger than the team. They will be good enough to compete, but they won't be good enough to go through the best teams. That's what I'm afraid, and I believe that's that's in our future again, right? Another tough playoff loss where we will look at it and we will simply say, "Oh, unfortunately, their talent is better than ours nowadays because we are relying on our young guys or our backups, and we got next year with a good draft and a good talent injection via free agency." We'll be back and stronger, and then we'll get through it. And man, it will be like year 9 of McDermott. It will be year 8 of Josh, and Josh taking a beat, and how long he will survive. So I don't know if I'm really comfortable waiting and waiting and waiting and keep doing the same thing and getting the same results and being afraid of trying something different. I think the Bills gotta go in that direction. I don't think it's gonna happen this year, but I'd go in a different direction, honestly. And being honest with you, right? I wouldn't be mad even if the Bills tried during the season to fire McDermott and elevate Brady as the head coach and see, go Joe Brady, do your what do you envision for this offense and for this team? You have this season to show us. elevate Babbage as keep Babbage as defensive coordinator and continues to see what happens. It's bold, it's crazy, but unfortunately, despite all the good traits McDermott has, I feel like his bad traits have limited and have been the main reason this Bills team can't go through this Groundhog Day situation that we've been at least for the last 3 years, right? Let me know your opinion in the chat, in the YouTube comment section. It's always great to talk Bills football with Bills Mafia. And also, if you're watching via the link on my Buffalo Rumblings article, let me know in the forum. It will be always a pleasure to interact with you. But I'm all in on going in a different direction. I'd go. I think it's time. I think it's time to be a little bit bolder as well. I don't think it's gonna happen, right? Right now, mid-season, nor at the end of the season. But if it happens at the end of the season, go with an offensive-minded coach. I know Ben Johnson is the name of the moment, but just like I said, McDermott wasn't the first name in many lists when we hired him, and it worked just fine. So identify via this process a guy that has a nice view for Josh Allen, the offense. You know, you have Peyton Manning in his prime. You don't build a run-first offense and take the weight out of Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was out there with the Colts with all the weight on his shoulders, like changing plays in the line of the scrimmage, having Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison to throw the ball to, Dallas Clark, Adrian James in the backfield. And, man, it was a high-powered offense, right? And then they invested in pass rush in the defensive side of the ball. And, man, they won one title because they had some difficult teams to beat, right? Oh, Fernando, but the Patriots were more balanced, right? And they were making the transition because early in Brady days, Brady was just running the system and they tried to protect him and run the ball and play defense. But later, as he grew older and better, like I saw Brady from the Buccaneers days won a Super Bowl, similar to Manning, taking control, everything on the offense, right? And if they could run the ball, it was because people were extremely afraid of Brady or Manning and all their weapons, right, in the passing game. You have Josh Allen, you have the main tool to build an offense like that, and you choose to run first and establish the run, and you're acting like you have the Detroit Lions with Jared Goff quarterback. I can't go and I can't buy in on that. Sorry, I can't. You know, I think you give Josh the weapons, proven weapons, right? And he'll get the job done. And then you worry on defense, doing your job on defense, because that hasn't been done in the past few playoffs. And if it was done in the last off season and last playoffs or the playoffs of 2 years ago, we would be in a Super Bowl already, and who knows if you wouldn't be with a Lombardi Trophy already celebrating. So that's my take, Bills Mafia. Feel free to agree, disagree. It's up to everybody, always respecting everybody's opinion, but that's how I feel about this Bills Groundhog Day, and I feel like it's time to be a little bit bolder and to try something different, right? That's it, Mafia. So feel free to comment, to give me your opinion. I'll be back on Sunday with a pre-game show in Portuguese, Bills Jets, right? Pre-Monday Night Football show. Support me, hit that like button, subscribe to Rumblings Network, subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel as well. Help me to get to 1,000 followers there, subscribers there. I need your help. And also rate the show on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Megaphone, Amazon. We are all over there, so I count on you, on your support, and I really appreciate it. I'll be back next Sunday in Portuguese, next Friday in English, as always. So thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great weekend, and I hope the Bills can win that Monday Night Football game, because we are always hoping for the best, even if we sometimes get tired of the same mistakes again and again. So that's it, Bills Mafia. Thank you, and go Bills.